greater things that as a society we keep, well, fighting. And we're talking substance abuse, because Love News Investigations is already discovering a new trend in substance abuse among young people in the Ashanti regional capital of Kumasi. And it's just beyond tramadol and the other known drugs. The Narcotic Controls Board in the region has confirmed the situation persists, but the law does not empower them to control this type of abuse. Officials in the Ashanti region cite inhalation of glue, insecticides and other forms of chemicals, which is now becoming a worrying trend. My colleague Prince Appiah has been investigating the new trend and brings us this report.
Chemicals like petrol, insecticides, Tipex, or we call it correcting fluid, the flames coming out of pit latrines and glue, yes. You know, the scent of it is also very strong. People have started abusing them. Those are some of the new trends that we have started recording, which are very worrying.
That is the voice of the regional NACOB boss with such a revelation. So we decided to investigate and understand the extent of the situation. Here is one of the communities we are told are hideouts for youth who abuse some of these substances. I meet Kofi and Akwesi, both obvious testimonies of the weird abuse.
Super glue, yeah, this one bag way. And down where sachets and Ota and also a daisy. But I'm more this metric India, metric selection India. I am to be a manum sang as well.
So, what is his motivation?
Yeah, drivers meet in the Menoma. Intimidate Jumapa as an Missia, a worship passengers, no, one, Basana, white and then worship passengers, now, Marco Junior, one, Marco Ju be back and in a bag. No, I got for Cano, as you meeting you and wire door, that feel free to me.
So we find out how tedious his work is. For Kofi, however, his immunity to these challenges goes high when he is on glue.
Selection the Tony Amona Ubius Kakla. And the Opeso Chia Ubius Kakan, Atria Kumua, the while a Sia was a catastrophe. What you are make a class. There's a own never real. Sir, then the older number. Do you have since that was our train? Train out.
Akwesi's experience is different.
So I shall not dear. We can't nanti never jaw. Tizama for no man with a sonny man or Mukoichiman. Omne chuchum be me who say, Una may be an so cry, until say we a day. Ebo. Tenedia, Unyatria, Sardine the Kutana, so cotton, unfound near Nanzo streets.
It is obvious that the abuse of these substances are assuming worrying levels.
The selection in the intimate mount Nafacon and no beja, and anti, baby, I want to be drew crown. Wounds were drew. Who couldn't pay Msuswa on fellow beer. But Tramona de Unyanum pe Namo Queen Pebby say, why slow? Utnasi as no buku. Buku maso chese wadano.
So where nebi Nase what was sent a museum.
I said the Malaria Achono. That's how will be the devil.
I have come to this shop close to one of the communities where glue abuse is prevalent. The owner confirms demand for and patronage of glue has gone up in recent times.
Your sizes, you can see medium name, million. I get one now or Montatopa. Get one the motor a day, at least best 7 and 10 days. You get to apply 4 cities and
I say I got 6 cities. I have almost talk. So let's say almost talk by meaning so almost talk here. Some talk or chain and some talk.
Head of Herbal and Food Supplement at the Food and Drugs Authority, Emmanuel Yao Kwating, explains the authority has no mandate to regulate the use of such substances.
Glue no nya dia FDA ye kan say ye regulate en kan ye nema ho na emom ya nya te say e ha nipa adwene je ye betimi abo ho dawuru but say ye ntimi yen hihye pin fa glue ho fi say enye nema FDA ye regulate.
Regional Deputy Unit Commander of Narcotics Controls Board, NACOB, Ishak Bakuri, says it will require legislation to empower the board to step in.
In the case of substances like that, it becomes very difficult for Narcotics Control Board to control. But I would have wished that some provision should be made in that law that will empower Narcotics Control Board to also enforce the abuse of these drugs that we're talking about.
So until the states take the bull by the horn and help address these challenges, the country will continue losing the youth to these substances. My name is Prince Apia, reporting from Kumasi.
So Prince Apia reporting there for us and telling us about this very worrying trend. Can you imagine? This is the shoemaker's glue and insecticides. If you remember yesterday, also in the Daily Graphic newspaper, Daniel Kenu in Kumasi was also reporting about how the psychiatric unit of the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital was also being flooded lately with patients who confess to taking Thai. And this is apparently a combination of opium and marijuana, combining that. So the young people are using all sorts of things. We want to get on Skype now and speak to Seth Mausi Asafo, who is a clinical psychologist, lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School. Well, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the AM show.
Good morning.
Okay. So, Seth, does this trend of combining opium with glue, insecticides, and with marijuana, does this surprise you? Is this something that has always been there, but we were only talking about tramadol?
Well, it's not surprising. If you look at the trend of what it means to use drugs or to get addicted and to feel high, it is very much expected because at the point, people develop what you call a tolerance for whatever they're using, so they don't get the same effect or feeling, or technically euphoria or high. And so they need something extra strong. Now the notion is mixing up different substances gives a much significant feeling of high. And so it's a common thing where people mix drugs for feelings of high.
Which one is worse? The tramadol, the glue, the insecticides, or the marijuana? Which combination is worse?
Well, if you look at the way they all act, probably I just say some of the chemicals in the insecticide and the glue have detrimental effects on your health. Okay, but the issue with tramadol and marijuana is their tendency for addiction. I mean, all these drugs are addictive, yes. But when you get addicted and you become dependent, then there's a physical presence where people are not able to function except they have any of these substances in their body.
Mm. So what would you say, monitoring the various campaigns, what we've been doing as a nation, would you say that we're winning this fight, and can we?
We can. For me, I think it has to do with more of education. Like the FDA boss said, it's difficult to regulate sniffing glue and pesticides and things like that. Of course, with other drugs, these can be regulated quite easily. But we should do a job of educating people more on where to get help once they feel that they've lost it or become addicted, and then the detrimental effect these things have on the body.
But sir, these people, not to cut you, but these people that my colleague in Kumasi, Prince Apia, spoke to, they didn't look like people who were saying, I need help.
Well, so these are just, let's say, a minute sect of everybody who uses the drug.
Correct.
The general picture would be to provide more information. They are not lost because there's help for them. All these people can be rehabilitated. It's about getting information out there for them to know where to get help and the fact that there is help. Now, we should push the agenda for people to realize that this is problematic. See, interestingly, before people start to use these drugs, it's just more like accidental, you know. Nobody set off to want to start using drugs. But our body responds to things that provide us pleasure and wants more and more and more. And as a result, they get addicted. And it gets really difficult to get away from it because the withdrawal symptoms are quite significant for them.
So who comes up with the combination? How do they get there? How does anybody even think about the shoemaker's glue?
Okay, so working with people who've had these issues, they'll tell you things like, somebody told me about the effect of this one or that one, or there's a joint where you can get something which is a mix of, in most cases, they're not even sure what the combinations are. See, there are a number of drinks out there on the market which have labels. I mean, not approved by the government, but they are names that people know, and they take it anyway, irrespective of what is in those drinks. All they know is it gives them a high, and they need a high.
How do you monitor if you have young people around you, if you're parents? How do you even begin to teach your children that this is not good? How do we communicate that?
Well, thankfully, we have lots of videos about people using tramadol and the effect it has on them. I think that's a good start for them to realize what that can actually do to them. Now, I know that as part of a lot of school curricula, they have people who talk about drugs, its effects, and the rest. I think that from a parental point of view, it's more important to have some form of monitoring for your wards. Even if it means that occasionally taking them to the lab to do a substance screen, it's important. And surprisingly, there are a lot of parents who never knew their kids were on any form of drug until they experienced an adverse effect, which was psychological. And then they were surprised. I never knew. I never thought my ward could. So for me, I think regular testing is important. Prevention is better than cure.
So what you're saying is that you can walk into any facility and say, I want to test if my child is using narcotics.
Perfectly.
What do you need for that? Is it a blood sample?
Well, they might use, mostly they use urine to test for the harder drugs. You know, for example, you see, marijuana will take a minimum of 30 days to leave the blood of anybody. So opiates will take about 2 days, or 7 days. So depending on where the suspicion is, but chances are if there's marijuana, you'll catch it because 30 days.
So can we also look at quickly alternatives? If we're taking this from them, there's a reason they're doing this. What do we replace it with? Do we even need to replace it?
Excellent. Okay. So, you know, like I was saying, some people try this experimentally and then they got hooked on. Okay. Other people have engaged in using drugs to manage some other problem, which could be a a depression or a low self-esteem, or just because they are trying to confront the group because they feel they are not part of it. And of course, we have lots of evidence to back the fact that this is something that's been happening. The people have engaged in the use of drugs because they have some other issue, which could be more psychological or emotional, that is eating them up. Now, you see, the way these drugs work is that they increase a certain chemical in your brain, which we call dopamine, and it gives you a sense of euphoria or excitement or happiness. So temporarily, it gives you an escape from your pain or your hurt. Now, our job in replacing it to help us develop better coping mechanisms against these emotional problems, whatever they are. And social support is an amazing way to help people get away from, their emotional problems.
So when you say social support, are you talking about the family? Is there any support system out there if you don't have a family?
Church. Well, the church largely has become a social support system for a lot of us. Okay, the school is another. The mosque is another. Even your community, for communities that are closely knit, there is some level of social support you can get.
Interesting. Well, we'll leave our conversation here. That's Seth Asafo. He's a clinical psychologist, also a lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School. Thank you very much for your time this morning on the AM show. We've just been talking about a situation, Love News in Kumasi, following the story for us. Their investigations haven't discovered a new trend in substance abuse among the youth in Kumasi beyond tramadol and other known drugs. So Prince Appiah telling us about how some young people are using glue, the shoemaker's glue, and insecticides. And I also shared with you Daniel Kenu of the Daily Graphic also filing a report yesterday. Psychiatrists at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital also talking about the fact that they are being flooded with cases of young people using opium and Thai, which is marijuana, as a combination to get high. So the concentration has been on tramadol. It looks like gradually the young people are also moving away from that and even getting on, substances that has far-reaching implications. And it is our hope and prayer, really, that as we have these conversations, we're also educating. And so if you're a parent, if you're a guardian, you also might want to watch out what your young person is doing. Sometimes it's unbelievable some of the things they can do. But just as Seth was saying, we can try and get a test just so we can be sure. And if you have a child going through that, if you have a young person going through that, please get help, because there is help out there. When we come back, we're also talking about a very worrying situation. We're told the WASSCE performance, especially the core subject, was terrible. We'll get into details of that here on the AM show.